5 spine-chilling wilderness horrors exposed, terrifying tales of the cursed and sinister outdoors, the woods whispered secrets that clawed at the edges of reality, a chilling breath of the unseen waiting just beyond the tree line. Sarah and Mark thought they'd found their refuge in a quaint farmhouse nestled in the lush greens of rural Pennsylvania. They saw rolling hills and a bright future for their kids, Ellie and Jake. But something in that stillness felt wrong. It wasn't long before that tranquil peace morphed into an oppressive silence, heavy with dread. As twilight descended, bizarre occurrences began infiltrating their new life. Ellie, sprightly and brave, ventured into the woods, her laughter echoing through the trees. But it didn't take long before she stumbled upon the first sign of something sinister. A chilling whisper carried on the wind, its tones both inviting and threatening. "Ellie, come play," a voice fluttered through the shifting shadows, tugging at her small heart. When she returned to the farmhouse, her eyes shone with a combination of excitement and fear, leaving Sarah feeling uneasy. At the local park, other children surrounded Ellie, their faces lit with a mix of thrill and terror as they spoke of the cursed trail. Words echoed with urgency: spooky, twisted legends of ghosts and shadows that lurk, hungry for the unwary. Panic gripped Sarah briefly, but Mark laughed it off, ruffling Jake's hair, dismissing it as silly folklore trapped in rural minds. He didn't want to shatter their peace just yet. But as dusk thickened, anxiety seeped back in. The darkness outside felt alive. One night, Sarah prepared a hot cup of tea, only to find her favorite mug vanished. Jake's teddy bear. Gone. A cold sweat trickled down her spine as howls broke the night stillness. Shadows flickered in the cornfields, each creak of the old farmhouse sent her heart racing. And Jake? He'd begun talking to someone invisible, his joy replaced with a somber intensity that rocked her motherly instincts. What was happening to her son? Then Mark discovered a dusty old map hidden away in the attic, its ink faded yet menacing. It held secrets, places marked with ominous symbols tied to tragedies within those woods. As he researched the area, chilling tales of betrayal and blood began to unveil themselves, a tapestry of terror sewn with secrets. He read of a family erased, spirits lingering and thirsting for revenge, their sorrow twisted into something hungry, just when hope flickered, its glow extinguished horror when Jake wandered too far during a family outing. Panic gripped Sarah as the last rays of sunlight dipped below the horizon, and dread clawed at her throat while she hollered his name into the darkening woods. Desperate, she confronted a local farmer, who had always been too friendly. His eyes glinted with something unsettling as he leaned in and whispered details that sent shivers up her spine. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. With fear brewing in her chest, Sarah stepped into the abyss of shadows where the trees loomed ominously, changing shapes and whispering in a tongue only the lost could understand. Heart pounding, she strained to hear Jake's voice, echoes mingling between lost dreams and the bitter truth of the past, what awaited them beyond the threshold. The closer they moved to the heart of the woods, the more steeped in terror their reality became, as if the darkness had claims over their very souls. What twisted fate awaited them deep in the haunted woods? Sarah pressed onward, her breaths ragged as a thick fog rolled in, wrapping around her like a shroud. The air felt electric, crackling with a foreboding presence. Each step crunched underfoot, louder than it should have been, pulling the shadows closer. The trees, gnarled and ancient, seemed to reach out with skeletal branches, eager to snatch her away. "Jake," she called, her voice quivering, swallowed by the oppressive silence of the woods. Panic surged within her as she pictured his small, frightened frame lost among the looming trunks. Goosebumps raced up her arms. What if he wasn't alone? From deep within, a child's laughter echoed, cheerful yet hollow. It twisted through the dark like a mocking ghost. "Mommy." The voice cracked like ice, breaking familiar, yet distorted. Was that really him? She pushed aside the anguish clawing at her heart and raced toward the sound, heart pounding like a war drum, with each step, the trees seemed to pulse, swaying as if alive. Her mind spun with terrifying stories of families consumed by the wilderness, their spirits merging with the land, their pain crystallizing into the very soil she tread upon. "Come play," the whisper lured her again, so delicate, so innocent, yet laced with dread. A chill wound its way around her throat. Suddenly, she stumbled into a clearing, the moon high above illuminating a circle of wilted flowers, black as pitch. In the center, Jake stood, his back turned, head cocked as if listening intently to something she couldn't hear. Relief washed over her, but it was short-lived. The shadows stretched and rippled around him, almost alive. "Jake!" she cried, lunging forward, but he didn't turn. "Jake, please." Then she saw it, a shimmering figure beside him, a boy with hollow eyes and a grin that held no warmth. Panic gripped her throat like a vice as she recognized the face from the local legend. A boy lost, eternally searching, eternally beckoning. "Join us, Mommy," Jake chirped, tilting his head. The boy reached for him, and in that instant, dread exploded within her. "No!" she screamed, rushing to grasp Jake's arm, pulling him back from the spectral child. But the apparition's smile stretched wider, teeth jagged like knives. "You can't take him away, he belongs with us." Terror coursed through Sarah as the shadows thickened, drawing her closer to the brink of madness. The air grew thick and suffocating. She felt the ground shift beneath her, as if the earth itself was swallowing her whole. "Run!" she gasped, yanking Jake towards the safety of the trees, but the ground trembled beneath them. Roots snaked forward, grasping at her ankles like desperate hands. A howl echoed through the woods, not just a sound, but a horror that seemed to resonate from the very depths of the earth itself. With every ounce of strength, Sarah pulled Jake, feeling the cold grip of the shadows trying to pull him back. "Stay with me. Hold on." Just as they broke into a clearing, the world shifted. The comforting sound of the farmhouse faded away, replaced by unearthly cries, the trees twisting like nightmarish figures watching her. Ahead, figures swirled in a storm of darkness, lost souls, faces twisted in pain. Before she could react, something yanked her back, an icy grip on her wrist, whispering promises of peace and unity. "Join us, be free," yet all Sarah could think was, what are they? The darkness surged, and she could feel reality bending, warping around her as Jake screamed. Panic turned to determination. She had to fight back. She had to save her son before the woods claimed another family. "Jake! Whatever you do, don't let go. We can escape." But just as they turned to flee, the grip tightened, and the world around them dissolved into a swirl of despair. Would they ever see the farmhouse again? Or were they destined to become part of the stories buried in the woods? The forest roared, a cacophony of voices filling her ears as shadows lunged forward. In her heart, she felt the weight of a terrible choice looming. What sacrifice could save her child? And in that harrowing moment, as the darkness clawed at their souls, a chilling realization washed over her. There were no guarantees. What horror awaited them as they slipped further into the dark corners of the unforgiving woods? Sarah and Jake lurched forward, fear propelling them through the pounding darkness as the tendrils of shadow coiled behind them like predatory serpents. Every breath felt like a weight on her chest, thick and stifling. The clarion sounds of laughter faded, the oppressive whispers grew louder, crashing like waves around their ears. "Don't look back," she urged, gripping Jake's tiny hand, feeling the cold sweat slick against his skin. They sprinted through the dense forest, heartbeats synchronized in frantic rhythm. The trees seemed to close in, their branches slapping at them. Hungry for flesh, they stumbled into another clearing, this one choked with brambles and thorns that twisted like gnarly fingers reaching for their flesh. The moon cast an otherworldly glow, illuminating a tangle of twisted shapes in the shadows. A shiver crept up her spine as she recognized them, faces half-formed, eyes wide and pleading, trapped in the shadows between the trunks. "Help us," they called, their voices slithering into her mind. But Sarah, heart pounding with terror, barely registered their cries. "Don't listen," she shouted, a primal urgency bubbling up as she pulled Jake close, dreading the moment when those lost souls would recognize them and try to reel them in. She dared not glance back, fearing the moment she would see the figure step from the shadows, limbs outstretched, ready to ensnare them in their eternal plight. "Mommy!" Jake whimpered, his small voice soaked with the weight of despair. The wood's echo answered a chorus of lost children, calling, yearning, drowning out her thoughts. She squeezed his hand tighter, feeling the warmth of life against the chilling grip of the trees. Suddenly, a snapping sound, a branch breaking above them. Sarah's stomach dropped. She looked up, eyes catching a flash of movement amongst the branches. A figure loomed against the moonlit sky, a tall silhouette wreathed in foliage, its eyes glowing like red embers. It tilted its head, unnaturally sideways, as if pondering them with curiosity or hunger. "Run!" she screamed. They dodged beneath low-hanging branches and tore through the underbrush, fear smashing into her chest with every heartbeat. Just then, a gust of wind swirled through the clearing, catching at her and Jake, drawing them backward. It howled in a voice both human and animalistic, demanding, "Join us, Mommy, it's pulling me." Jake yelled, panic-stricken, as he felt the roots begin to entwine around his legs, thick and stubborn as iron shackles. "No!" With a lurch, Sarah threw herself forward. She needed to pull him free, needed to escape. But the air grew heavy with sorrow as shadows spun tighter, wrapping around her too. She can't lose him. Summoning every ounce of will, she yanked Jake against her, hearing the roots groan and snap as they released him. But the effort cost her. Darkness swirled, pulling against her limbs, static crackling through the air, signaling doom. "Mommy!" Jake cried again, the sound breaking Sarah's heart. The twisting pain inside her flared anew. She could hear the whispers growing louder, agonizing, tempting. "Join us, no. I want tea." She screamed into the void, the darkness swirling in on itself as she felt for the last ember of hope to power her resolve. They surged toward the edge of the forest, where the trees thinned, revealing a flickering light up ahead. "It's the farmhouse!" She shouted, joy bubbling in her chest for a moment, but as they rushed forward, Sarah felt a sharp pull at her ankle, stumbling her to the ground. A hand stretched out from the gnarled roots, skeletal and stained. "Stay with us forever," the whispered plea echoed beneath the thundering pulse of her heart. "Jake, run!" she cried, desperate. But which path would they choose? The flickering hope of safety or the seductive pull of the darkness that promised unity? As Jake hesitated, eyes wide with fright and confusion, Sarah felt the tangle of shadows tightening, their whispers clawing for her sanity. Time stretched, holding the air tense and expectant. Would they succumb or break free, in that precarious moment? The shadows hissed in unison, a sinister collective promise building in their embrace. Only one can escape. How could she choose? What would she sacrifice? As the air thickened with dread, the flickering light began to fade. Sarah held her breath, feeling the weight of everything crashing down. What would they find if they reached the safety of the light? Or was the darkness out for blood, hungry for souls to claim? The shadows grew denser, wrapping around Sarah like an embrace turned suffocating. She felt the breath of the darkness on her back, each whisper more desperate, more familiar. "Join us, Sarah." The wind called, teasing her sanity. It felt like a lover's caress, seductive and chilling, vibrato laced with a horrifying truth. "No!" She screamed again, a sound torn from the depths of her soul, drenched in desperation. Behind her, Jake's weight was momentarily absent. Her heart seized, dread twisting within her. He was still there, she reminded herself, but the darkness hissed, as if tasting her fear. "Mommy!" The frail cry cut through the thick air, a reminder of what was at stake. The shadows hungrily surged forward, eager to feast on their despair. "I'm coming!" she shouted, forcing her hands to move, clawing at the rich earth as she wriggled free from the shadow's grip. She gripped blindly for Jake, desperately trying to locate him in the whirling void. When she looked back, her heart shattered. A root had begun to coil around Jake's waist, pulling him toward the chilling darkness. Fear surged through her. "Jake! No!" With a surge of adrenaline, she dragged herself forward, determination fueling her every movement. Just a little more. And finally, she was at his side. She yanked on him, hands trembling, urgency pulsing through her. "Don't let go." She pulled with every ounce of strength she had. The shadows screamed in protest, its tendrils retreating slightly before latching onto her arms, cold and consuming, like grips from 1,000 icy fingers. Each second felt like an eternity as the darkness tugged, wrestling with her, trying to rip apart their bond. The flickering light remained ahead, almost mocking, a beacon of hope coated in evil. She would reach it. They would get to safety. But the shadows, oh the shadows, they were relentless. Each pull was a weight on her spirit. She could feel the tug trying to pull her apart, limb from limb, then they were within the reach of the light, a gentle pulse, radiating warmth and safety. Jake's eyes locked with hers. She could see the reflection of terror, but there was something else too, a flicker of hope. "Mommy, we can make it," he cried, the conviction in his voice anchoring her amidst the chaos surrounding them. "Yes. Hold on." With one last mighty effort, she heaved him toward the light, their entwined fingers glinting like desperate stars in the night. The grip around her released, momentarily, as the roots recoiled in frustration. "Run, Jake," she commanded, shoving him forward into that glowing promise. As he disappeared from her grasp, the air grew still for a moment, deceiving her into believing they had won, but just as quickly, shadows surged back, stronger, angrier. She felt them coil around her legs, pulling her downward. "Only one can escape," they hissed in an echoing chorus. "No, no." Panic flooded her thoughts as the darkness grew thick, choking off her air and grasping at her heart. The flicker of hope dimmed, flickering like the last candle in a howling storm. Sarah felt her body begin to buckle under the shadow's weight, as desperation clawed at her throat. She fumbled for the light, fingers stretching but inching away as darkness threatened to engulf her. "Jake!" But it was too late. In that moment of desperation, there was an explosion, a blinding flash from the farmhouse. The ground shook violently as if the earth itself was splitting. Everything jolted. Suddenly, the pull of darkness faltered, revealing a scene beneath her, distorted by panic. Shadows flickered overhead, coiling as if rebuked. Out of control, Sarah fell back, tumbling beneath their grasp. And then, stillness. She lay stunned, breathing in the earthy smell of damp soil. What just happened? She wondered, heart thrumming wildly. The darkness receded into the forest, and there, above her, the lingering edges of light flickered. A figure emerged, the silhouette of a child, blurry but undeniably familiar. "Jake. Mommy, come." The voice beckoned, teasing her with urgency wrapped in echoing whispers. She pushed herself up, heart racing, driven by one thought. Was Jake saved, or was this a cruel trick? Would she step into the light or dive deeper into the dark? In her heart, she knew there was no turning back. As she marched toward that flickering child, the trees around her began to stir and groan. What secrets lay waiting to unveil themselves in their twisted branches? Each step carried her deeper into the unknown. The air thickened as she stepped into the clearing. Every rustle in the leaves sent shivers racing down her spine. The luminous figure of Jake faded in and out, like a dream she couldn't grasp. "Wait," she called, her voice trembling. "Mommy, come." He coaxed again, his form flickering like a faulty light bulb. Her heart wrenched as she stumbled forward, each movement both a push toward hope and an invitation for the darkness to swallow her whole. A branch cracked, sending a sharp jolt through her. She turned, eyes darting, pulse pounding in her ears. This was not just a forest, it was a living thing, a beast that wanted to keep her trapped. The shadows slithered close, eager, hungry. "Why can't you just be real?" She breathed out harshly, her pain spilling into the void. Was she losing her mind? The tension in her chest tightened like a vice, pulling deeper with every step she took toward the flickering form. "Mommy." Jake's voice grew more urgent, seeming to struggle against an unseen force pulling him back. She lunged toward him, but he just danced away, taunting her. Then the underbrush rustled violently, and the woods erupted into chaos. A gigantic shape darted into her view, bark and branches shaped into a grotesque figure, its eyes glowing like dying embers in the dark. This was no trick of the shadows, it was a guardian of the forest, a creature birthed of its malice. "What do you want?" she shouted, backing away. The creature's jaw opened wide, revealing sharp, wooden teeth. "You are not welcome here," it growled, each word vibrating through her very bones. The flickering light dimmed again, and fear surged. "Jake! Come to me!" she cried, but he was lost in that eerie glow, pushed to the brink by the forest's will. The ground shook beneath her, roots rattling from deep within the soil, aching to ensnare her and drag her into the earth. Only one can escape, the whispers intensified around her, a chilling melody rising from the shadows, growing louder, drowning her thoughts. "Stop!" Sarah shouted, clutching her head. She had to breathe. She had to focus. She remembered the warmth of her son's eyes, the love radiating between them. That was real. Could it conquer this nightmare? She turned to face the creature, rising to her full height, her voice steady and defiant. "I'm not leaving without my son." With a roar, the creature lunged, splintered branches cracking like bones against the night. Sarah dove to the side, narrowly avoiding its grasp. The shadows clawed at her, eager to hold her down. But she wouldn't give in. Thoughts became clearer, she had to fight. "Jake, listen to me. You have to fight too," she shouted, the conviction in her voice bursting through the fog of despair. She felt something shift, a tug of recognition, her will pushing against the ravenous darkness. "Mommy." He was closer now, the light beginning to burn stronger. But as the creature turned back to her, crashing through the trees, the roots twined tighter around Sarah's legs, dragging her back toward the earth. "I want to let you take him," she screamed, pulling her strength from the very ground itself, feeling its energy pulse through her veins. But as she fought to break free, a chilling realization crept into her mind: the only way to save Jake might be to sacrifice everything. The echo of the forest's whispers grew as the creature raised its gnarled arms toward her, poised to strike. "Only one can escape," it hissed again, and in that moment, the world around her cracked like glass. She faced the impossible choice: protect herself or save her child. Was she strong enough to overcome the darkness, or would she lose Jake forever? The creature lunged, a shadow of despair hung heavy in the air, and Sarah's heart thundered. What choice would she make next? The creature's mass loomed larger, its gnarled arms stretching like tree branches in search of prey. For a moment, everything froze, every sound, even the haunted whispers around her stilled, waiting for her choice. Would she hide, or would she fight? "Mommy." The call punctured the silence like a knife. The flickering light of Jake pulsed in the shadows, fragile but persistent. Sarah gritted her teeth, grounded her feet, and summoned every ounce of belief she had left. Jake. It was raw, primal, the sound of a mother's desperation pushing against impossible odds. With a wild surge of adrenaline, Sarah ripped her feet free from the earth's grip, stumbling forward as the creature roared in frustration. Tall roots twisted violently, as if trying to reclaim their prize. The ground shuddered beneath her. "Come to me, my love," she screamed. The words tumbled out, desperate and thick with an urgency fueled by maternal instinct. Suddenly, the forest whispered in sharp bursts. The air crackled unexpectedly, sending a chill racing down her spine. The shadows recoiled, as if in pain, revealing ground that lay bare and trembling. She could see glimpses of something more, places of darkness that hid behind the trees. The faces of the silence, lurking, waiting. "Only one can escape," the creature hissed, now inches from her, fetid breath brushing against her skin. It moved with unnatural speed, each motion fluid and terrifying. "No. It's not just me or him," she shouted, unleashing a torrent of her fear. "We can fight together." Suddenly, the glowing form of Jake grew brighter, illuminating the forest around them. He grasped at the shadows, pulling against the darkness that sought to drown him. "Mommy. I'm scared." "Fight, Jake. Fight. Remember love. Remember us." With each word, the shadows quaked, losing some of their savage grip. The creature let out another growl, its body twisting as if in agony. Sarah's heart raced alongside her hope, igniting a fire deep within her. The forest was alive, but there was a fracture in its creation, a weakness. That was her chance. She could feel the ground beneath her shift, no longer just a shackle but a tether. The energy surged, unlocking the weight of the woods, twisting vine and bark into something almost tangible. Then, the impossible happened. Jake, glowing brighter than ever, reached out. "Mommy. Take my hand." Sarah lunged, hands outstretched, ready to grasp her child. But darkness slunk closer, the creature eyeing her weak point. It lunged forward, sharp wooden teeth gnashing inches from her face. In that fleeting moment, Sarah's thoughts raced. She could feel Jake's warmth calling to her, a beacon of hope, but the darkness hungered with fierce intent. She felt the raw energy pulse through her, along with the terrible weight of choice. What would she sacrifice? "Together we can beat it," she screamed, determination flooding her voice. Only one can escape, the creature taunted in darker tones, but now Sarah believed. With a fierce growl, she stepped forward, feeling every ounce of her being tighten as she prepared to confront the horror that tried to take her family. They weren't just fighting for their lives, they were fighting for love, for the connection that bond mother and son. The moment hung in the air, fraught with tension. The shadows clawed desperately at her, digging in deeper. But then, a flash of clarity pierced through the chaos, a vision of their future together, free from this cursed forest. Was she ready to risk everything? Could love truly conquer the darkness? The ground shook violently as the beast lunged once more, its wretched growl echoing through the forest. Sarah faced the conflict, heart pounding, breaths quickening. In the next heartbeat, she would have to choose. Would it be love or despair? Something had to give, and when it did, would they both be ready? The darkness erupted like a wave crashing against the shore, swallowing everything whole. Sarah felt it wrap around her, a cold, suffocating blanket that promised silence, but all she could hear was her pulse thunder in her ears. "Jake!" She screamed again, desperate to find him, to grasp onto that flickering light that was the last remnant of hope. But the shadows were hungry now, swirling around her like a tempest. The creature's breath turned hotter, its rancid odor filling her lungs. It was close enough for her to see the twisted branches wrapped in sinew, the eyes glistening in malicious delight. "Choose, Sarah." It hissed, voice a serpentine whisper curling around her thoughts. Only one can escape. One life for another. This wasn't just a physical choice. It was about sacrifice, about the raw deal the darkness was offering. The weight of that realization crashed down, and she felt her resolve slip for a moment, just enough to let fear creep in. Could she really leave her child behind? The thought lacerated her from within. Her heart shattered with the possibility, splintering as she weighed the unforgivable against the unthinkable. "Jake!" came the small, wavering call that echoed like a fragile echo of clarity. The light pulsed again, defying the shadows, creating a halo that fought back against the encroaching darkness. "Stay with me, buddy," she cried, her limbs trembling. "I'm coming." With a surge of fierce will, she took a step closer to the monster, eyes lit with the fire of a mother's love. "I will protect my son. You will not take him." The creature recoiled slightly, if only for a split second, confusion rippling through its grotesque features. But then it lunged, a swirl of lethal bristles and jagged edges. Sarah barely dodged, feeling the rush of air as it barely missed her. The ground beneath her cracked, trembling as the tension grew thick, a taut string ready to snap. "Run!" Jake cried, his light flickering uncertainly. "No. We do this together," she shouted back, steeling herself against the wave of impending dread. They needed to fight, to break through the weight of despair that threatened to swallow them whole. With every ounce of her strength, Sarah surged forward, throwing herself at the roots coiling in the dirt, remnants of the forest's darkness trying to chain her down. She felt a crackle of energy pulse through her, fueled by the love for her son, and tugged at the glimmering light that was Jake. "Hold on, Jake. I'm coming." The creature roared, an anguished sound that shattered the air, its claws swiping again, but Sarah wouldn't yield. She could feel the shadows clawing at her skin, each one sending an icy shiver through her body, but she pressed on, pushing back against the icy tendrils that sought to snatch her away. "Mommy." Jake's voice was trembling yet fierce, as he pulled against the darkness anew. Suddenly, time seemed to freeze. Just in front of her, the ground trembled again, violently dislodging the shadows that sought to smother them. In that shaky moment, she caught sight of something deep within those roots, a faded memory of laughter and joy, of a bright future together. It glinted like a star amidst the storm. Could she reach it? Sarah lunged, grasping the thread of possibility, heart racing, blood pounding. Desperation was her armor now, and with it, she could almost taste freedom. The forest shuddered around her, whispers of old fears entwining tight. But a crack formed in the darkness, threatening to swallow her whole. "Choose now." Only one can escape. As the creature roared and lunged once more, shadows swirling around her, she felt the ground shift as the forest mourned the consequence of her decision. Would she grasp Jake and flee? Or would she offer herself to the beast, hoping it would take her, leaving him behind? Time dropped heavy like a stone as the choice hung in the air. The darkness reached out, clenching tighter with every heartbeat. What would she sacrifice to set her son free? With a final, terrifying gulp of breath, she knew she had to choose in that breathless instant, and there was no turning back. The choice shattered Sarah like glass, splintering her inside. For a heartbeat, she saw Jake, his innocent face illuminated by that radiant glow, the embodiment of every reason she fought. The creature lunged again, its claws aimed straight for the heart that beat only for her son. "Mom! Help!" Jake screamed, his voice laced with panic. She felt the shadows pressing down, their icy hands wrapping around her throat, squeezing the breath from her. Tendrils of darkness snaked beneath her skin, whispering vile things in tangled voices. "Leave him. It'll be easier." "No!" she screamed, pushing back against the cold, fighting with everything she had. It was as if the validity of their love was tangible, a force that could hold the shadows at bay. With a fierce cry, Sarah grabbed Jake's light, her fingers brushing the warmth radiating from him. She pivoted, using the momentum to face the ghastly creature head-on. It hesitated, another flicker of confusion breaking through its wolfish confines. "How do you choose, Sarah?" It taunted again, voice slithering toward her, eager to tear apart her resolve. The shadows flickered, twisting around her, begging her to submit, to choose the path of least resistance. In that moment, she realized that the weight on her shoulders was not just the horrid choices of life and death. It was a living entity, feeding off her uncertainty. She grappled with her heart, her love for Jake bitterly juxtaposed against the grotesque charm of self-preservation. "Mommy." Jake pressed, but his voice sounded far away, swallowed by the lurking darkness. The ground quaked beneath her feet, reverberating with the creature's growl. Fear surged within her, but she refused to let it drown her. The damage the darkness wrought on her spirit had only kindled the fire of a mother's love. In a movement fueled by desperation, she lunged once more towards the tangled roots, reaching for that memory she glimpsed before, a vision of a sun-soaked day at the park, laughter spilling out in waves, a picnic spread beneath a bright blue sky. "Mommy, please." She focused hard, grasping that memory as tightly as she could. The shadows shrieked, their voices now disjointed and frantic. "No. Remember your fear. It can't be real." But Sarah pressed on. "You will not take him." In the next moment, she felt a seismic shift, like the roots themselves screamed against the weight of horror. With every ounce of will she had, Sarah surged forward, dragging Jake along with her. The creature lunged, teeth gnashing, swiping through the air, but it lunged too late. "Jake!" Their hands touched, warmth ignited between them, and together they were a brilliant beacon of light. The shadows howled, retreating in terror. In that bright moment, they tore through the darkness, a literal bolt of resolve slicing through the night. But it wasn't over. As they stumbled forward, the world began to shift. The forest twisted, and the once familiar trees now turned like twisted, malevolent figures. Each root seemed to grasp and claw back, dragging them into the abyss. Sarah's heart raced as a new dread clutched at her. What if this was just the beginning? What more lay ahead, worse than the creature that prowled behind? "Mom, where are we going?" Jake whispered, eyes wide with fear as they sprinted, the ground trembling beneath them. "I don't know," she whispered back, feeling a crack in her bravado. "We have to keep running." But suddenly, a figure emerged from the mist ahead. It stood bolt upright, cloaked in shadows yet pulsing with a familiar energy. "Another choice?" Sarah, the voice sang softly, tones of enchantment threading through the thickening air. "What now?" she thought frantically, heart thudding. As Jake clutched her arm, they were enveloped in darkness once more, and Sarah could feel the weight of another decision pressing down. Who was this figure? Was it friend or foe? They were not out of danger yet. The figure stepped closer, its form slowly materializing from the void, revealing sharp features and eyes that glimmered like shards of glass. Sarah squinted, searching for recognition, but all she saw was fear and trepidation reflected in her son's wide gaze. "Stay close to me, Jake," she whispered, holding him tighter, her heart hammering against her ribs. The air thickened with tension, a palpable dread that coiled tightly around them. "Sarah," the voice rang out again, blues and greens blending into one murky hue. The figure's lips barely moved as it spoke, but the cadence was soothing, like a lullaby danced with darkness. "Let me help you." "Help?" Sarah echoed, skepticism tinging her voice. "You think I'd trust anything from this cursed place?" The shadows dripped around the entity like ink in water, swirling with intent. "I know what you face. The creature you just escaped, it hungers for despair. But I hold the key to your survival." Sarah felt a flicker of hope try to break through her tangled fear, but the creature lurking behind was relentless. Its growls echoed through the trees, deep and menacing, like thunder shaking the very earth. She glimpsed its grotesque silhouette clawing towards them, teeth gleaming in the faint light. "Mommy." Jake's voice trembled, a sharp reminder that hope alone wouldn't save them. "What do you want?" Sarah demanded, defiance blazing through her desperation. "What price must I pay?" "Nothing, but your fear," the figure replied, its tone smooth, almost hypnotic. "Face it. Overcome it. Only then can you claim true power." With each heartbeat, the ground writhed beneath them. The shadows felt tighter, suffocating, as if the roots below were pulling them under. A mournful wail resonated in the distance, a chilling reminder of what could happen if they allowed despair to claw its way in. I can't," Sarah stuttered, visions swimming behind her closed eyes. Images of jagged teeth, endless darkness, the weight of losing Jake bore down on her. "What if I fail?" "Then you will truly be lost," the figure said, its voice steady, unwavering. The ground quaked again, and the creature's breath washed over them like a frigid wind, biting and harsh. Rattled, Sarah cast one last glance at Jake, his trusting eyes fused with hers. She couldn't succumb now, not when he depended on her so fiercely. With a deep breath, she grounded herself. "I'm not afraid," she shouted, intent blazing through her. But the shadows roared back, whipping around them like a violent storm. "Do not lie to yourself," the figure hissed, shadows swirling aggressively. "Your fear is as dense as the darkness itself." "I said, I am not afraid," Sarah shouted again, defiance rising. Every ounce of her love for Jake pulsed through her veins, igniting a spark against the chill. Suddenly, clarity washed over her. Fear, doubt, they were mechanisms of control. The creature thrived on it, drew power from the terror festering deep within her. She squeezed Jake's hand tightly, warmth radiating between them. "That's it," the figure crooned, shifting its stance, light flickering in the corners of its form. "Let the love fuel your courage." As she focused, the shadows began to falter, flickering like dying embers. "I won't let you take him." The creature snarled, its eyes narrowing to slits, black gnashing jaws revealing gleaming fangs. It lunged forward, desperation clawing at its senses. With a roar, Sarah pushed through the collapsing darkness, the energy of her love creating a mighty barrier against despair, but the intensity surged, shadows howling in rejection. What she hadn't anticipated was the figure's sudden shift, becoming a swirling blend of light and dark. It consumed her vision, shredding her focus, blurring her sense of reality. Sarah. Jake's voice cut through the chaos, clear yet distant. But the shadows began dragging her back, each tendril a reminder of failing now would leave her unmoored, lost. In a moment of pure determination, she leaped forward, forcing her will into one final act. Together, Jake. We face this. But with her plea came a deafening thud, and the ground beneath them cracked wide open as the creature lunged, mouth agape, darkness clawing toward them. They teetered on the edge of the abyss, facing not just the creature, but the spiraling depth of fear itself. Are you ready for the truth? The figure hissed, its voice now a blend of hope and foreboding. As she struggled to hold Jake tight, torn between the abyss and what lay beyond, the darkness surged ever closer. What truth awaited them, waiting to be unearthed? Time slipped dangerously as they stood on the precipice of doom. Sarah's heart thundered in her chest, resonating with the weight of the moment. The dark jaws of the creature loomed over them, but it wasn't just the fear of losing Jake that gripped her, it was the deep-rooted terror of failing him, of letting despair drown out their shared light. Listen to me. Sarah shouted, pulling Jake close, forcing the fear to coalesce into something manageable. We're not alone. We can do this together. Her voice rang with a strength she hadn't felt before, defying the darkness that wrapped around them like a suffocating scarf. Mommy. Jake whimpered, his bright eyes glistening with rising panic. She could feel him trembling. He needed her strength now more than ever. Remember the park? She urged, her voice a lifeline thrown into the abyss. The laughter? The sunshine? We're going to hold on to that. This is our story, and we're not letting it end here. Jake's expression shifted, confusion morphing into resolve. He nodded fervently, and in that instant, they became a united force, pulsing with purpose against the darkness. Together, on 3. She counted down, her heart racing with determination. 1, 2, 3. They surged forward, hands intertwined, breaking through the grip of shadows as if splitting through a curtain of water. The creature roared, the sound like thunderclaps rolling across a stormy sky, but even its fury couldn't shield them from their light. The energy between them sparked with a brilliance that rendered the darkness shrieking in agony. Keep going. She shouted, their feet pounding against the ground, powerful and determined. With each step, the light intensified until it flared like an explosion, illuminating everything around them. The creature faltered, eyes wide, twisting as this new force threatened to consume it. We'll show you fear. Sarah cried, harnessing the warmth radiating from Jake. The very core of her love suffused the air, transforming fear into power. The shadows recoiled, their claws retreating like weary soldiers driven from battle. The flicker of the enlightened path became clearer, a shimmering doorway appearing in the thick of the forest. It pulled on Sarah and Jake, an escape woven from hope and love threading its way through hesitation. That's it. We're almost there. Mommy. Jake's voice rang clearer, echoing through the chaos that remained. They reached the edge, a curtain of light folding before them like a welcoming embrace. Just as they hovered on the brink of safety, the creature howled, summoning a last desperate attempt to hold on to them. Only one can escape. It bellowed, revealing jagged fangs, fury laced like poison in its growl. But Sarah refused to flinch. Not today. We're bringing each other home. The words propelled them forward, and, hand in hand, they leaped through the barrier of light, breaking free from the forest's clutches. The world shifted, and suddenly they were back in the familiar warmth of their kitchen, sunlight pouring through the windows, painting everything gold. It was as if the woods had never existed. Jake. Sarah held her breath, torn between relief and fear, her heart poised on the edge of uncertainty. Mommy. Jake beamed, dashing into her arms, and they collapsed together in a hug, laughter spilling out, mingling with the brightness enveloping them. In that moment, they were whole once more, together at last. "I was so scared," he whispered, his small frame trembling against hers. "I know," she murmured, squeezing him tight. "But we made it. We fought together, and that's what counts." As they pulled back, the memory of the forest lingered like a fuzzy shadow in the back of her mind, but something shifted. Voices faintly whispered in the distance, faint echoes of lost souls, but they were no longer cries for anguish. Instead, they shifted into a sense of peace, melting softly into the tender warmth of the farmhouse. "Tomorrow, we'll go to the park," Sarah announced, glancing outside through the large window toward the inviting hills. "Can we picnic?" Jake's eyes gleamed with excitement. "Absolutely," she replied, her heart swelling. They had won, feeling a part of something bigger. Sarah smiled softly, knowing the shadows would remain in the recesses of her memory, but their power over her was broken. They had triumphed not just against the dark, but in claiming their love solidified amidst the chaos. "Mommy. Let us go." Jake grabbed her hand, pulling her toward the door, into the bright light that greeted them outside. As the evening sun set, bathing the farmhouse in a warm glow, Sarah inhaled deeply, feeling free, hopeful for whatever tomorrow might bring. But one thing was clear: love, even in the face of darkness, would always light the way, and there you have it. If you loved this conclusion, don't wait another moment. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss our next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and let the world know how to escape into our incredible tales. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. We want to hear how this story resonated with you. And finally, instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Let the light of these stories brighten their day. Remember, only true fans understand just how essential your support is for our channel.